Hello, everybody. You're listening to Chris Hattingh on my latest solo podcast. After a week's break, I'm back with a pretty grave topic. Well, I find it very grave and upsetting. It's a matter of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which I think is under serious threat in South Africa at the moment. We all know, all those of us sort of in touch with academia and politics in general, we know about the issue of offensive speech it's been talked about on university campuses, where certain people are prevented very strongly from speaking based on their gender or on their race. They're shouted down when they present thoughts or arguments which are different from the sort of accepted norm, the accepted line. If their arguments are hurtful or offensive to certain other groups, then they're not even allowed to speak, never mind allowed to debate these things. But now we're seeing this sort of notion filtering into society in general. I think if you look at trends on university campuses, both in America and in South Africa, maybe in the West in general, and then other countries, the trends at universities indicate where society is going to head, sort of in general. I think ideas predicate and predict actions. What you believe and think about the world will tell other people, and where your actions are going to go and what you're going to do. Your beliefs influence your actions. So the latest incident I'm referring to regarding free speech is the destruction of Peter Louis Meyerberg's book, Gangster State. It's about Ace Magashule. It contains allegations of state capture against the ANC man, and probably against the ANC in general. I haven't read the book yet, but I will probably buy it soon, especially after what has happened. But on Tuesday, and I'm speaking to you on Thursday, but on Tuesday this week, protesters invaded the launch of this book at Exclusive Books in Sanctity. They seized copies of the book off the shelves and tore up the pages. And then when security arrived, they didn't leave. They kept up their violent actions. And then the ANC Youth League in the Free State has said it will conduct a book burning next week, Monday, of Gangster State. Now, to me, these two incidents, the one that has happened and the proposed one, indicate a serious lack of respect for freedom of speech. It shows that there are groups in society who are very scared. Perhaps it shows fear. They're scared of any ideas or allegations or anything which goes against them and their group. This shows that people, at least some people, don't value freedom of speech nearly as much as they should. I think freedom of speech is a core, integral part of any liberal democracy, any democracy that can consider itself democratic and liberal in the true sense. It doesn't help if you only pay lip service to the idea of free speech and then you actively destroy things which contain thoughts or ideas which are opposed to your own. If we truly valued freedom of speech, we would be open to these things being published. Let's presume that the allegations in the book are false. Then it's completely, hopefully it will come out, and it's but it's completely at the accused's discretion, whether he wants to defend himself, whether he wants to pursue legal matters, follow legal course against the author, and then, proceed accordingly. But I'm very concerned about the general trend in society towards shouting down one's opponents. The idea of book burnings, I mean, that's straight out of the Nazi communist playbook. Any collectivist, any philosophy based on collectivism cannot entertain any arguments opposed to it. So when you see in free societies the dissemination of ideas, the publication of various different books, this is because people try and persuade other people on the merits of their ideas. If your idea is so weak that you can only use force to destroy other people's arguments, I think you very quickly need to find different arguments. It shows the moral deficiency within your own arguments. Now, once you use force against someone else, you completely lose any moral argument, because force negates people's ability to use their minds freely. It leaves no room for individuals to decide for themselves what they think of something. It introduces, in whatever form the force is used, a gun or a baton, fire, anything like that. Any violence against anyone's ideas is a physical manifestation of the notion that you don't need to debate anyone on equal footing. It shows that if you have enough power, you're morally in the right to completely sort of destroy anyone, at least anyone's ideas. Maybe not, you won't attack the person, but you're going to destroy their ideas if they're opposed to your own. I think in South Africa, maybe we take a lot of things for granted, especially property rights, with expropriation without compensation coming soon. But I also think we take freedom of speech for granted. You cannot live as an individual, you cannot live freely, you cannot pursue your values and your goals if you're not free to think. And attacks and threats against freedom of expression and freedom of speech indicate that certain groups in society might not be comfortable with the way you decide to live your life, and they're going to use force to influence you to act differently. Now, we need to guard against any attempts to restrict our freedom of speech. I consider freedom of speech an absolute. If I say certain things or I have certain ideas, then I have to stand by them, and putting it into the public domain means that I have to be willing to defend the merits of my argument. It's always very gratifying when you sort of debate with people who stand by their principles, even if you don't agree with them. There's a certain, I don't know, maybe a civility or a respect for discourse when you debate with people who allow you to respond in kind, who also, then give you the space to say why you disagree or what parts of their arguments you agree with. There's something to be said for that sort of tradition of engaging with different ideas. As hurtful and offensive as some of those ideas might be, I think the best cure for sort of racist, homophobic, classist ideas, if you consider sort of far-right notions especially, the best way to defeat these is for them to be exposed in public, and then we present our arguments and we show why these ideas are both immoral and, simply in terms of data, why they're wrong. You're not going to defeat these ideas by banning them or driving them underground. That's just going to encourage more and more people to go and find out about them and read up on them. I think the destructive actions by the protesters on Tuesday and the planned book burning, they're simply going to result in way more copies of the book being bought than would have been the initial case. This was the case with The President's Keepers by Jacques Poe last year. There were moves to ban the book, to silence the author and his ideas, and that book proved a huge success, and I'm sure the author's bank account thanks all the people who tried to ban the book. It's going to be the same for Myburgh. He's going to see a great financial windfall from all of this. So it's having the opposite effect of what the protesters have intended. And again, it shows a moral deficiency on their part. You would think, if these allegations were false, then they'll be exposed as such. Then the protesters don't have anything to worry about. But yeah, maybe there is some truth to what is in the book. We'll have to wait and see what comes from it. Obviously, I think more and more people are now going to go and buy it and read up on it and investigate the claims and decide for themselves what they think. And now, yeah. Just to sort of put a final, I guess, bow on this topic, book burnings and book bannings, especially book bannings, were, I guess, the trend of the day during apartheid South Africa. The apartheid government very quickly banned books they considered immoral. It contained ideas that might threaten that regime's idea of, the ideal society or the ideal person, any ideas which were opposed to their own, which they felt threatened their way of life. So we have to be very careful that we don't head back to a pre-1994 South Africa. The discussion and dissemination of ideas is vital for any healthy democracy. We cannot consider ourselves in any way legitimate if we shout down and ban ideas and arguments which make us uncomfortable. And books are simply the physical manifestation of people's ideas. If you're that scared of someone else's ideas, you either need to look into yourself, do some introspection about your own self-confidence and the foundation of your character to see if it's that weak, or you need to look at those arguments and then find ways to defeat them, to argue against them. This is part of living one's life as you see fit, of being responsible, of taking ownership of what you believe, what you think. You're going to be challenged. You're going to have to think about these things. It's not all going to be given to you. It is each person's moral responsibility to decide for themselves what they believe and what they think of the world. And that, if we really want freedom in the true sense of the word, the freedom to live our lives as we see fit, to be responsible people, to build wealth for ourselves, all of these good things we pay lip service to, then in the same sense we need to be okay with the fact that there are going to be ideas which make us uncomfortable and which we need to engage with. So I hope that you also get the sense of concern that I do about the potential moves to silence freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and that you'll fight back against these. Whether you agree with everything I say, or everything in the book, or everything you read online, that's up to you. But at the very least, I hope that we can reach a sort of agreement that we need to engage with each other on an equal footing and be willing to debate these points and debate our different ideas. Otherwise, South Africa, if that's not the case, then South Africa is in a much worse state than I had thought at first. So we'll see what comes from from the allegations in Myburgh's book. We'll see what actually manifests, if they're true or not. But I really hope that at the very least any other actions or plans to ban the book or burn the book are not followed through on, and that the book can stand and fall on its own merits. So thank you, listeners, once again for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Please leave your thoughts and comments below. Please like the video and share my podcast as widely as you can. And I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.